us all back together. I'm so sick of this, I could throw up.
I'm kind of tired of it too. I wish
Hey,
I
Brenda.
wish I could snap my fingers and make it disappear. Okay. I guess I will go ahead with the roll call and then I'll
Geared up and get us all back together.
Oh gosh. I'm going to go ahead and do roll call and then I'll ask Chuck if he'll open us with prayer. So we know Dennis is here. So Gary.
Yeah, I'm here.
Rennie.
Here.
And Robert.
Here.
Brenda. Here. Doug.
Here.
Todd.
Here.
Johnny.
Here.
And Chuck.
Here.
Okay, Chuck, do you care to lead in prayer, please?
That'll be fine, thank you.
Thank you.
Bow your head. Heavenly Father, we come today giving you thanks for us for any blessings that you share with us. Father, I should be with all those that are sick and shut in, and this virus has got everybody's routine all messed up, and kids are trying to go back to school today. I ask you to be with each and every one of those children as they begin school again this year now. I ask that you bless us and all that we do in the future and the sight. In Christ's name we do pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. All right. We'll get this started then. Okay. Financial matters, we'll turn it to Julie Page.
Julie, you're muted. Okay. You can hear me now?
Yes.
Right? Okay. Okay. So these are the financial highlights as of August 13th for the end of the period, July 31st, 2020. And basically what you still see at the top, I'm showing the fiscal year audited 2019 because we are still working on information to close fiscal year 2020. So what I put on here for you guys to start reviewing going forward, of course, is fiscal year 2021. So right now, our total year-to-date expenditures are $91,000. Our total fund balance as a percentage of all the general fund expenditures would be 17.97%. And the unassigned about the resolution here in a few minutes. This is where we recognize with the budget going up that we were at a possibility in fiscal year 2021 of going below that unassigned policy of 16%. So we'll talk about that here in just a few minutes. But then below you'll see where we put in fiscal year 2021. So our budget is $7,193,098. We have gotten revenue in of $126,233. We have spent $91,943. So we actually have a little bit more revenue because we got more revenue in than our expenditures for July. Our cash balance in the operating account is $132,900. Our capital management trust account is $1,050,117. So we have cash balance of $1,183,017. So if anybody has any questions on the highlights. Okay, so the next item is budget amendment number 1. So budget amendment number 1 is, well, one of the things I didn't cover is the notes that we basically are still trying to confirm when our fiscal year end date will be, that they will be on site. We don't really have the date determined for our audit yet. Then we are still doing preparation to make sure that we've got everything done for the fiscal year end audit. I'm trying to make sure that everything is completed by August 31st. So I'm working with each of the department heads to ensure that we get all of the receivables, the revenue, the expenses, everything booked, hopefully no later than August 31st. We have entered all of the budget for FY 2021, and we are currently working with the department heads so that as we progress and we need to make a budget amendment, a budget transfer, that we keep all of these accounts accurate, clean, and as possible so that we don't have as many adjustments that we may have to make at the end of the year. And then the workforce monitoring was continuing, and I think we completed that through last Friday. So I think that we're almost through with all the workforce monitoring. So sorry, I forgot to bring those notes up. So on budget amendment number 1, the first amendment is basically regarding planning and development, and that is for the EDA funding, the additional $200,000 that we are getting. We're actually getting $400,000, but $200,000 we're allocating and plan to spend in 2021. The other $200,000 we will allocate and spend in fiscal year 2022. Then the next one is workforce. Workforce was, but one other thing, the $200,000, but the $13,1332 is for the new conservancy grant. We were awarded the grant and did a budget amendment for the portion we would spend in FY 2020, but we've got $13,332 that we need to budget in this fiscal year. So that is also planning to new conservancy grant. Then the other 175 workforce had worked to try to see if we could get the new National Emergency Dislocated Worker funding of $350,000. That was what was in the original budget ordinance. But once it was confirmed, we're only actually going to receive 175. So that's why you see the 175,000 going down for the expenses expected for workforce. So the total budget amendment that you're approving tonight will be $38,332, making our new budget ordinance amount $7,228,730. So if anybody has any questions regarding the highlights of the budget amendment. Okay, if no questions, then I think you all got the resolution. So this was at our discussion and recognition that every year during the budget preparation and presentation, we are supposed to let you be advised if we anticipate that we could go below that 16% of unassigned fund balance that was in a resolution adopted in 2017. So one of the things, if you look at the estimated budget for this year, as we just discussed in the financial highlights, it is a potential possibility that we may go below that 16%. So in researching this with our auditors and also with making sure that this was reviewed by the attorney to make sure this is accurate. One of the things that was recommended is that we really can't average it over a 3-year period, because the statute really says that you only determine your unassigned balance at the end of the fiscal year once a year. So one of the recommendations was, okay, put an amendment in that gives you the time to put a corrective action plan in place. And also we confirm with the auditor that there would be no finding if we wait until we do it in the fiscal year. So that means that really, even if it's estimated for 2021 that we might drop below that 16% from a audit finding standpoint, from a legal standing point, we still will not have to address a corrective action plan, Julie and I as the executive director, the finance officer, until we get our audit and it shows that we have dropped below that 16%, because it's really the only time that you truly accurately have an audited unassigned fund balance. So that was what we put in here, is that once we know that we've got that unassigned fund balance below 16%, Julie and I will work within a 90-day period to make sure we put a corrective action plan in place. And then the next board meeting, we will bring that corrective action plan for the board so that we can put that in place, and we'll probably have options. And then you guys would approve what that corrective action plan is. And we put in there that it would give us a 3-year period, because it could possibly, based on where we would be budgeting, where we would be from a revenue standpoint, that it could possibly take us maybe 3 years to get back to that unassigned 16%. So I hope that makes sense. And Julie and I both can answer any questions that you guys have regarding this resolution to the minimum unassigned fund balance policy. I know I threw a lot out there.
Julie, Gary Blevins. I've got a couple of questions.
Okay.
Okay. To me, as long as the actual amount that we have in that unassigned fund balance doesn't go down, the percentage to me is not that important. but in 2019, 2020, 2021, is the actual amount of money that we have in unassigned fund balance going to decrease or increase? Just the actual amount.
I think that what will happen is,
percentage.
yeah, I think that what happens is, like you said, that a good point here is that this is not really impacting our cash. It's just that our budget amount is going up, and most of that budget amount is due to grants. It's the grants that come in and the grants that go out. So that it, at that percentage and makes it look like it'll go down is because we're getting more grant money. But it really is not impacting available, monies that we have in the general fund. But it just calculates the percentage differently because we're getting more grant money in and out. Does that make sense?
Yeah, of course it does. And what I'm saying is that I don't want to see the amount of actual money that we have in the unassigned fund balance goes down. I understand the percentage is going to vary according to how much money comes in as revenue and goes out. But I would like to see that amount of money that we have in the unassigned fund balance continue to grow each year, even if it's a small amount. I don't want to see it decrease. I'm not that concerned about the percentages at this point.
And I think
it will increase each year.
Right.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
Yeah. And I think that's what to make sure that we make clear, because you're right, it's confusing. I'm afraid that, to your point, people are thinking, oh, well, that means we're going to decrease that money in fund balance for general fund, but we're really not, because the fact of the matter is we're getting this additional state and federal grant money go up. Are correct.
Hey, Julie, this is Johnny Riddle.
Yes.
And I just want to say, Gary, I appreciate the question because that really clarified it for me. That makes it sound a little better. So I just want to say thank you for that. I mean, you did a good job explaining it, Julie, but it was almost a little over my head, and I didn't get the percentage versus the amount that's in there. And so I'm glad you explained that. So thank you.
Okay.
Yeah. Johnny, to your point,
Yeah.
I think this resolution, I mean, I know our last discussion, we talked about averaging out. I see now that that's not going to work with the auditing rules and that sort of thing, and I appreciate that. However, in agreement with Johnny, as long as the amount that we have of actual money that we can put our hands on in unassigned fund balance doesn't go down, I think we're in fine shape. So I'm not concerned about that. If we have to put all this verbiage in this resolution to make it work with the auditors, that's fine. But I would just like to emphasize that I think that each year we need to make sure that our fund balance does not go down in actual amount of money we have. I understand the percentages are going to vary according to the conditions and the grants we get and the amount of revenue that comes in based on crisis or high unemployment or, whatever Congress decides to do when they do something.
Well, and I also, tell me if I'm wrong, but is 16% not double what the state requires?
Yes.
The state requires 8%.
The statute requires 8%.
Yes. Okay. Okay. So we're still in good shape. I mean, regardless of
Good point,
percentage.
Johnny. I think another possibility we could think about maybe in the future, and we'll go ahead and pass this resolution and get this behind us. But we could actually, and I don't remember the discussion when we initially picked 18%. I believe that Shane might have been the executive director then. And we picked 18% to be very conservative and make sure we had a solid fund balance. We could drop that down to a lower percentage and probably get ourselves out of this pickle, and then just make sure that the executive board is very disciplined in the amount of money that they budget so that our fund balance doesn't get too low. And it could drop down to 15% or, some lower figure, Johnny. And that's a good point you make.
Okay. So do we need to approve the budget amendments or the resolution?
All of it.
Resolution.
Probably both.
So is it the budget amendments need to be first, or is it all together in one?
In the highlight.
Yeah. Yeah, the
Okay.
budget amendment will have to be approved.
Can I make
Okay.
one comment about the fund balance policy? So I think the percentage, just kind of listening to some of the thoughts and questions and concerns, I think the percentage of 16% will help us ensure that we are keeping a strong, cash balance. And that was, I know, the original intent. And I think that maintaining that, especially in the future, will certainly be achievable. To Julie's point, this really is going to be a short-term problem, so to speak, because it's really just we have a short-term infusion of federal grants. Now, those are going to go away when the CARES Act allocations expire. So our budget will go down, but our cash should remain the same. But I did want to mention that as far as ensuring that our cash unfund balance stays strong, we don't really have a lot of funds that can roll into fund balance. It's really just our money's in our general fund, and what our general fund is comprised of are revenue from the COG cars, interest from our accounts like capital trust, and our COG dues. And the COG dues, as we've talked about at length in the past number of months, go to securing our match. So once we work towards making sure that our match is covered, then we won't be exhausting the rest of our general fund to try and cover that, and then plus the rental income. And so it's going to take still a little bit of time to where we can annually and diligently continue to add back cash to that, so that we'll have money to spend on cars and things like that. But that's definitely very much on our radar, and part of our goal in trying to get the dues commensurate with match, so that we've got some freedom and flexibility for when we need to replace our cars or other capital expenses occur, that we're not dipping into our cash. So our cash position, I don't think has changed significantly, but we did purchase the vehicles, and then we did have to appropriate a little bit, I think, not this fiscal year, but the fiscal year prior, but it wasn't super significant. Overall, the cash that we've had to allocate hasn't been a tremendous amount. So generally speaking, I say our total cash over the past few years has stayed pretty consistent.
Well, Julie, Doug Matheson here. Is that not the reason that we actually gave ourselves 3 fiscal years to give us some wiggle room with trying to do this anyway?
Yes, that's correct.
Yes.
That's a good point. Thank you.
Good point, Doug.
So what budget amendments, what's the number of these budget amendments?
We've got the highlights, and then budget amendment 1. And those can probably be adopted or passed and voted on collectively, and then the resolution, but this is amendment 1.
All right, this is Johnny Riddle, and I'll make the motion that we approve the financial highlights and budget amendment number 1.
Second.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. So let me go through the list and get everybody's vote. Gary,
Yes.
Rennie,
Yes.
Robert,
Yes.
Todd,
Yes.
let's see, Johnny, you made the motion, didn't you?
Yes.
Okay, so Doug
Yes.
and Chuck.
Yes.
Okay. So motion carries. We'll send that to the full board for their approval.
That's correct.
So let's see. That was just on the financial highlights, right, Johnny? Or was that on?
And budget amendment number 1.
Budget amendment number 1. Okay. What about the unassigned fund balance policy? Are we going to do we need to do something on that too? Or what do you guys want to do on that? Does that need to be approved, or are we just going to kind of
This is Johnny Riddle again. I'll make the motion that we approve that resolution for the
Okay.
minimum assigned fund balance.
I'll
Okay.
second that.
Who was that
This
seconded?
is Robert Johnson.
Robert.
I'll
Okay, Robert. All right, we have a motion and a second. I'll get votes from those remaining, which would be Gary,
Yes.
Rennie,
Yes.
Brenda,
Yes.
Doug,
Yes.
Todd,
Yes.
Chuck.
Yes, with a note, I think we need to make sure that the executive, at least the advisory board, be kept current with this at least once a quarter to make sure we know exactly where we stand.
That's a good point.
Okay. I'll make a note of that to make sure that we do that.
Okay, that sounds good. All right, so that one carries, and we'll take it to the full board too. So thank you all for that. And so just see, Julie Page, do you still have a few things to discuss? Or
No, but I'll just I appreciate him kind of highlighting, and I'm sure that I simplify that explanation, explain the reason that okay.
Hey Pete,
Some reason
it was like echoing, so if you could start over.
Okay, I'm
was it
sorry.
me or was that everyone?
Does it sound okay now?
A little bit better, yes.
Okay, I don't know why it's echoing, but yeah, I'll make sure to Gary's point that when I tell the full board about the resolution and that percentage, is it still echoing?
Yes. Yes.
I don't know. I
I
don't know
don't
why
think
it's
the service is
echoing.
the greatest.
Oh, sorry.
You're breaking
I'll
up.
just make sure I explain. I don't know why I'm breaking up. Sorry. But I'll explain the cash balance part. That's where, to Gary's point, I don't want anybody to be confused that we're not maintaining that cash balance. So that's all I've got. Thank you.
Be good. Yeah.
okay, thank you, Julie. So next up is Julie Wiggins.
Great. Well, good evening, everyone. I've got a couple of items, one that's new and then one in follow-up to our last month's conversation, just some general updates. Wanted to propose to you all the consideration for the sale of our car number 5 as surplus property. Just a quick reminder, we purchased 4 new cars maybe 3 years ago now, 2 or 3 years ago, and we held on to one because the cars were getting driven frequently enough to where it was helpful to have that 5th car. So we held on to one of the older ones, and now with the circumstances, we're not driving nearly as much as we were. The inspection on this car is due in October. It's a 2007. I think it's got just over 200,000 miles, if I remember correctly. So it's probably going to need some work and some repairs coming up. Plus, it's not really getting driven. So I wanted to put this to you all for consideration that we surplus the vehicle.
Julie, this is Chuck. I'll make a motion we pass this on to the full board.
Julie, this is Robert. I'll second that.
Okay, we've got in a second. We'll get everybody else's approval. Gary,
Yes.
Rennie,
He's
is he
muted.
muted?
Yes, sorry.
Okay. All right. Oh heavens, Robert, did you second that?
I did.
Okay, I thought you did. Brenda,
Yes.
Doug,
Yes.
Todd. Is he muted or have we lost Doug or Todd?
I think we lost Todd.
Uh-oh. Okay, Johnny.
Believe Todd's out to sea.
Is he out to
Yes.
sea? Literally, right? Johnny.
Yes.
Okay, so we will pass that on to the full board. Thank you, guys. Okay, Miss Julie, move forward.
Okay, so in follow up to the conversation that we've had, really, I guess, over the past couple of months anyway, is in regards to the charter. So quick reminder, we've got the general statutes that authorize the councils of government, the chapter 160A, as you see, and then that mentions the charter. And so the charter is our overarching governance, and then the charter allows the board to create bylaws. So, but they carry weight in that order. And what was discovered is that the charter defines, well, two things: that the charter says that the executive board will have a maximum of 15 members. So if you see on page 3, I believe, so maximum of 15 members. And then on page 4, it defines quorum as 60%, which is 10% more than what the bylaws say, which is what we've been following. So in follow-up to the discussion that we've had, it sounded as though everybody was in favor of a proposal to change the maximum number of board members to 27 to be consistent with how many we have. The definition is still the same. I mean, if you look up at those points just above where Victoria is highlighting, it says a member from every county, a member from every municipality, a representative from a minority organization within the region. So that still is, the definition is consistent. So it's just the number. And then also was discussed that we make the definition of quorum consistent with our bylaws. So reduce it from 60% to 50%. And those are really the only areas that on pages 3 and 4, as you can see where Victoria's scrolling, that would require a change in the bylaws, in the charter. And then to amend the charter, it takes having a 60% quorum as currently defined, and at least 2/3 of those voting in favor. So I wanted to follow up with you all and show you in writing where those changes would be made if you all are in support of that. And if so, we can discuss it at the full board meeting, and then we'll need to probably get that in writing on a future meeting, and not necessarily vote tonight, just to make sure that it's real clear to everyone.
Has Jeff had has Mr. Hedrick had an opportunity to review this too?
I'm sorry, it's who?
The attorney. She had an opportunity to review this?
Yes.
Okay.
And actually, really what happened was that when I noticed the discrepancy, I had been talking with an attorney that we use for a different matter out of Charlotte. And I mentioned that to her, and then she reviewed all of our governing documents and wrote me back and said, you know, these are the two main areas of discrepancy. But also that's who confirmed we did need to follow the 60%. So I've got a bit of a write-up that that she sent that we'll keep on file for documentation. But that's a great question. Thank you.
Well, what do we need then, Julie? Just a motion to go ahead and pass that on to the executive committee tonight?
Yes, if you all are in support of that, then yes, that's what I would need. And I would discuss it, and we wouldn't vote at the board meeting, but we would just discuss it if y'all are in favor.
I'll go ahead and make that motion then.
I'll second that. This is Rennie.
Rennie, okay. All right, we have a motion.
Valerie, could I just make a comment in discussion after
right.
before we vote?
Okay.
The minority representation. Given the current state of affairs, maybe the executive board at some point would want to consider increasing that number. I know it's going to be a large board, but we really need more representation and diversity on the High Country board. It needs to be something that we add to our priorities. And I mean, I'm not pounding the table on this, but I'm going off the board in December, and I would really like to see the board consider additional diversity on the board at some point. So it just something to consider, but I'm certainly in favor of the resolution or the change of the charter. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I ask, please?
Sure.
I don't understand why we're not going to vote on this tonight.
Well, suppose really, we probably could if we have a quorum. But Jeff did say that it would be good to have it formally on the agenda and in writing and send all this to the entire board for recommendation. And I guess just to be totally candid, I didn't want to fully make that assumption based on the minutes from our last meeting. It sounded like I needed to bring these back to you guys. And maybe I should have gone ahead and put it on the full board agenda, but I just didn't want to make any assumptions. But really, technically, the way the amendment process works, I don't think that there's anything prohibiting it.
I got you. Okay, thank you.
That would be up to you all.
Any other questions or comments?
Here, this is Chuck. Yeah, I think it needs to get out to all the membership at least a month before we vote on this, because they haven't seen it yet. If they get it in their packet this week, it's going to be, if they have any questions or anything, it's going to be difficult to get to our next meeting, the meeting coming up after a while, if they haven't seen this at all yet. So has the current changes that you put in here and what we're talking about here, is the board going to see that tonight also?
Yes, I'll have Victoria pull that up, and then we can include the full document in the next packet. Again, if that's the direction y'all want to go in.
Will that give the ones that haven't even seen it or had any discussion about it, would that give them enough time to make I think we need to spread this out at least a month. That's just my opinion.
This is Robert, Julie. I would agree with Chuck on that. I think it would be well taken or better taken.
So maybe we should go ahead and have them email copies of it to the other members, like after tonight's meeting, perhaps. Does that sound like a plan? So they can look at it and have from now till the next meeting, which is another thing we were going to discuss, is if y'all want to have a regular meeting in September, since we're not going to be able to have the banquet.
You need to vote on the call for the question. We've got a motion and a second. We need to.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So I guess I need to do a vote. Is that right? Is that where we're at now? I guess we've got a motion and a second, so we'll go ahead and do the vote. Remind me who did the motion in the second. I'm lazy here.
Rennie.
Rennie did the motion. Okay.
Doug, and then Rennie seconded.
I was second, yeah.
Doug and Rennie. Okay. So Gary.
Yes.
Robert.
Yes.
Brenda.
Yes.
Todd.
Yes.
Johnny. Have we lost Johnny? Was he muted?
He's muted.
Oh.
Yes.
It looks like Todd is back.
Yeah, I saw Todd was back. I got him. Chuck.
Yes.
Okay. So that is approved. We'll let them bring that before the full board tonight, and then I don't know if my idea sounded okay about letting them send it out to if the full board is good, we could send it out, let them send out the email to the rest of the board and let them have from whenever till the next meeting or whatever to look over it, and then we could vote on it at the next meeting. You all are, well, whatever we decide later. So, okay. Next for you, Julie.
Okay, yeah, just general updates. I'm gonna start with a couple of questions. We don't currently have on the advisory committee anyone from either Sparta or Allegheny. Now, it's just kind of a product of the circumstances. They were both new. They were both really interested. I think the discussion was, let's give it just a little bit of time since they're both brand new and see, just unfortunate circumstances with the pandemic that, we haven't really had a chance to have an in-person meeting. But I wanted to bring that back up to see if y'all want to discuss that or table it, or if you're ready to make a recommendation and how you want to handle that.
I think they need to be represented.
Julie, this is Robert. I agree with the fact that they need to be represented. And I think you said you had reached out to them. Is that correct?
To who? I'm sorry, Robert.
I think you said you had reached out to the people in Sparta. And I agree that we need somebody from Sparta, but have you reached out to anybody in particular, or since the new people that hadn't been active? I don't know the answer, but I'm in full agreement that I think that we need somebody from there.
To your question, Robert, I did speak with them earlier this year that either one of them would be asked to serve, and tried to get a sense of if one person was more inclined than the other, and they both seemed really interested and wanted to serve. And so I guess if you want a little more time, I could also follow up with them again and see how they feel.
Well, I know they're having a lot of, excuse me, I didn't mean to interrupt. They're having a lot of hardships over there right now with the earthquake situation and all that too. But I think it would be good if we did reach out to them again and maybe see if we can get one of them to start coming and participate.
They're both supposed to be on the full board meeting tonight. I know there have been a little technical difficulties with both of them in recent months, but they've got backup call-in numbers tonight. So,
okay.
Is that what you all would like me to do? Maybe just follow up with them and report back to you all next month?
I think that would be good. That's my opinion. I think maybe Brenda might have said something to that effect also.
Yes.
Julie, this is Todd. Can you hear me? Do I have enough service that I'm coming through?
Yes.
I see you now.
All right, let's tell you. So I'm following. I don't know if y'all can see me at all, but I can hear the discussion perfectly. If I was going to reach out to anyone, I mean, of course, there's any number of folks up there that could do a terrific job on this board, but the new mayor in Sparta, Wes Brennan, seems to be particularly eager and gung ho. They've had some drama on the county board, and they've got a new manager. And anyway, they've got a lot of headaches. The county guys do. I think it might be hard to get one of them motivated enough. They've probably got enough going on right now. But Wes Brenninger, the new mayor, is very, he's awesome as far as I can tell, and I think he would be a wonderful addition.
This is Robert. I would agree with that also, Julie.
Yeah, I agree with Todd, and I know their new town manager over there, and even he would be a good addition. He used to be with the EMS in Cleveland County, Good guy.
A few comments in support of Mayor Wes Brinegar. Any further comments on how I might proceed?
And please, for the record, let it be that certainly was not a comment against anybody from the county over there, but those guys, I know most of them personally, and they've really had their hands full for a while. And but Wes from the town, he's very eager, and you know, Sparta, they're having a facelift in the streets project, and they're really trying to bring Sparta up to the front. And I think he would. I would guess he would jump at the opportunity to participate.
Julie, just a little history note from me. 15 years ago at my first meeting, the mayor of Sparta put his arm around me and welcomed me. And so we've always had great representation from the Sparta board. If Todd says that Wes is eager to do it, what we need is eager people on this advisory committee, and it has to either be the commissioner or the mayor. It can't be any other person from Allegheny County. So as long as that doesn't create any friction between the county commissioners and the town of Sparta or their leadership, I would certainly welcome Mayor Brinegar to the board.
I agree, Gary.
But now, I don't know that he'll do it, but if he would, I think it'd be good.
I have four.
Never know till you ask.
That's right.
I have four that
Julie, hold on, one more thing. Todd, can you hear me?
You bet. Okay.
I want to throw this in on the side. I know it's not part of the discussion, but I want to say it right quick while I'm thinking about it and while Todd's got a connection. We had our annual conference last week for the County Commissioners Association. Todd was elected by our 7 counties that are in high country to be on the board of directors for the County Commissioners Association to represent our district for the next 2 years. And he's going to be in a great position. I've been on that board for about 6 or 7 years now. He's going to be in a great position to really help us there. And I want to thank the commissioners from the other counties that helped me in that process. I've done this many times. And I want you to, Julie, I'd love for you to mention that at the meeting tonight. I think Todd's going to be super. He's going to be great on the board. And Todd, congratulations, man.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Gary. Thank you. Thank you. Anyway.
All right.
I cannot guarantee results, but I can only guarantee effort.
Just call me if you get in a bind.
You got it.
Yeah.
Great, I've got that written down. That's congratulations.
Thank you.
So I have four advisory committee members who have suggested Mayor Wes Brinegar. Do you all feel comfortable in me going ahead and reaching out to him after tonight's meeting and asking him if he's interested? I've not found any documentation of a formal appointment process and any of the governing documentation I can find. So I think it would be a matter of you all voting on it. So I'll take direction from you all as to how you want to move forward.
I don't have a problem with it.
I think we ought to ask him if he's interested first
Yeah.
before we vote.
Yeah.
I think you're right, Brenda. And then we'll move forward.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it sounds like I'll follow up with him after this meeting and see what he says and bring it back to you all next meeting. Okay.
Sounds good.
Great. Okay, back to my notes here. So we skipped the May recognition newsletter just because of sort of the chaos of everything going on. I wanted to check in. Do you all want us to move forward with the October recognition, which we would normally start soliciting articles in the near future to get that out for October? How do y'all feel about that?
Julie, this is Robert. I think it's a good idea to go ahead and start that again and get it processed and sent out.
Sounds good, Julie.
Sounds
Sounds
good.
good, Julie.
I agree.
Yeah.
Sonny Riddle, I see you, boy.
Yeah, here I am.
Okay.
Nice shiny smile.
Not hearing any concern about that. We'll move forward with the October recognition. Just wanted to mention a couple of other things. We had a virtual managers meeting last week and that went well. The focus of the conversation was mostly just on, you know, COVID recovery, the funds available and what our role either is or could be in assisting the local governments with coming up with a plan or drawing the funds down, and also just giving everybody a chance to share what they're doing with the funds and how they're doing it. So I think that was a beneficial meeting, and I had, you know, a couple follow-up items that I felt like it was just good conversation. One of the things that we mentioned though too, that I just want to mention to y'all, and I'll mention to the full board, and I know that everybody's aware of it, but just the census response rate. There's a map that we put in our weekly bulletin that it shows in blue the areas that are low response, and pretty much our whole region is in blue. You know, most of the census tracts are, you can kind of see it. And so I know so that was one of the things that we brainstormed at the managers meeting, and I followed up with some folks that at the, I guess it's Carolina Demography, that gave some suggestions on, you know, why there could be a low response and, you know, hopefully how we can overcome that a little bit. And I think we're going to get some boots on the ground soon. But nonetheless, we all know the implications of having a lower response rate than we have population in terms of jeopardizing funding. So I wanted to make sure I mentioned it. If anybody has any ideas, that you know, we asked the managers if there's anything, if there's a role that the COG can play, would love to hear it. Besides just we're trying to get it in the bulletin and make sure that we talk about it with various groups. So y'all have any ideas? And so I'm just gonna kind of go through these last few items, but stop me if you've got a comment or a question. Also just want to mention we're going through the RFP process for our new printer, kind of a minor operational detail, but I wrote it down in my notes. And then lastly, hope I'm not premature in saying this, but I submitted an application to the manager's course at UNC School of Government. I talked with Valerie a little bit about it, and felt like it would really help hasten some additional learning curve that I have in areas that are outside of my aging background, and have since I've started this role, from numerous colleagues have said, you got to do it, you got to do it. People say that it's as beneficial just about as the public administration degree. So I say, you know, hope it's not premature, just in the sense that I applied. I have not been accepted. So, but I felt like it would be an investment. Similarly, Julie had to hop off. She's actually on vacation, but she's joining us for these meetings. But she's been signing up for some school of government courses, as is Victoria. And I'm letting y'all know this for a couple of reasons. For one, to let y'all know that we're all very invested in wanting to make sure that we're knowledgeable, that we're informed, that we're trained to do the best job that we can do. And then also we wanted to take advantage of the fact that we do have a little extra capacity over the next couple of years because of some additional grants that's enabled us to be able to make this investment. And I'd say, you know, a year or two from now, I'm not necessarily sure that we would be able to make that investment. So we saw it as a good long-term investment, and wanted to mention that to you all. Those concludes my updates, unless y'all have questions or concerns or thoughts.
Were we going to mention having a meeting in September?
Oh yeah.
That's the only thing I can think of.
I think it's great, Julie, that you and the rest of the crowd are taking all the courses and classes that you can. That's yeah. My hat's off to you. That's great.
Very
Thank
good.
you.
Thanks. We're excited. I appreciate the support.
Yeah.
When she mentioned it to me, I was very encouraging. I thought I said, yes, I think you should do it.
Yeah.
It's a great thing, Julie. We progress only by education only, so it's a great
Yep.
thing.
Good point.
I'd like to mention that we did have a forum. The state association did meet recently, and we had a good discussion on a number of subjects, mostly, of course, around the CARES Act and workforce development and the things that are really relevant right now. But the forum's still active. We're doing it virtually. The advisory board needs to consider that after this next meeting, that Julie's going to need a new representative from the executive board to start attending the forum meetings, because it's very important. It needs to be somebody that's committed to actually attending the meetings. So y'all keep that in mind. Thank you.
Good point, Gary.
Yeah, thanks, Gary. Was there anything in particular you want to bring up, and would you be willing to share that with the full board as well?
No, not really. It's I'll let you handle that. That's fine. You take care of it. Thanks.
Right. Yes, the forum representative is on my list, and wanted to bring that up at the next meeting. And then just generally at the association level, there's still just a strong movement towards advocacy and making sure that the COGs are being proactive and being the go-to regional agency to administer services that make sense for us. Nothing that would be totally outside of our wheelhouse, but things that make sense. We're continuing the effort that preceded me, certainly, and really, largely happened under Gary's role as chair, and during his term as chair was a real push for advocacy. And so we're, I get the benefit of kind of coming in after that ball got rolling and starting to see the results. So it's been a joy for me.
Sounds like we need a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Robert.
Well, real quick, do y'all want to have a regular meeting in the month of September since we're not doing the banquet? That was one thing I think Julie and I had discussed the other day. The third Monday would be, I can't remember what day it would be.
Can we get the full board in the room and still social distance?
No,
I don't know. Let's see.
I don't think so. If everybody come there, you couldn't.
Yeah, that would be the 21st of September would be the third Monday.
I can't see how we could all get in there in social distance.
Yeah.
I was just, to that point, I was just thinking about what kind of dynamic might work. And I thought either the executive, the officers could be there in person, or the advisory board possibly, and at least try to do that and socially distance. And then maybe at the October, November meeting, try to maybe see how things are going and maybe bring more people in. It'd be nice to have at least a few members of the advisory board or the officers actually meet in person. I think if we don't do that soon, we're in danger of getting completely disconnected from one another.
I agree.
So if we could, maybe each county could select a representative from among their members, and we could actually start moving back toward physically meeting. I think it's important at some point that we do that without breaking any rules or doing anything that might endanger anyone from the board. So just a thought.
Yeah.
So, and then we can do the Zoom in our room up on the wall.
Yeah. Well, we did that with the County Commissioners Association.
Right.
All the officers were in the room together.
Yeah.
And it really helped. I mean, I thought it brought a little bit of continuity, and I know they were able to socialize, but still maintain their distance and all that sort of thing. So we might have to do this incrementally in steps to get back to the full board at some point in the future. But I think at some point we've got to move away from exclusively doing Zoom and move back to being in contact with each other, because I've begun to observe there's so many more elements to the meeting that you lose when you do the Zoom. And I think at some point we're going to have to just take a leap of faith, and it can be those that feel like they're less at risk or, feel like that it's worth doing. So anyway, I'm ready to move to Robert, the Mayor Johnson's point. It's about that we make some kind of an incremental move toward having physical meetings again.
Yeah.
Thank you, Gary.
I think the advisory board could all meet there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Let's try that.
At that point, we need to include Jeff too. And that way he can
Right.
listen to some of the full board.
Right.
too.
Let's give that a try next month.
Chuck, I'm being a little bit selfish. I want to see everybody before I go off of the damn board. And I mean damn in a nice way.
Maybe we can borrow App State's football field and we all meet out there.
There you go.
All right. I second the motion.
So everybody would be okay with this 21st of September, that Monday?
Yeah.
Sure, 5:30.
For the regular, just a regular, and just and let the advisory board go ahead and meet, I guess, at the office at 5:30. Is that
great?
Yeah. We could even
sounds
look
good.
at, Brentford down the road, and they've got a little bit bigger room. If we've tried to look and see how we can spread out, but if they've got a little bit bigger room, so we'll consider that too.
okay?
But either place.
Okay.
All right.
Sounds good then. Okay. Who wants to make that motion to adjourn?
Robert did. I second.
Seconding. Okay.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
Next meeting. Thanks, guys.
Bye, everybody.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Very good to see you, brother.
Y'all take care.
Thank you.
Victoria, are you still on?
Yes, I am.
I don't think I got an invitation to the meeting at 7.
Okay, I'll resend it to you.
I appreciate that. Thank
Yeah,
you.
you're welcome. Bye, guys. See you in a few.
See y'all. Take care.